Welcome back to another Epidose. These crazy people that just eat me and can't stop talking about it. Again, it's the usual suspects, Justin and Tom. We are here. We apologize for not doing a live stream this week or last week. We both had some unusual scheduling issues. And so we decided to record this one and the last one, which I don't think I've gotten posted yet. So
Scheduling issues. Well, I would like to welcome everyone back to the Meat Mosaic YouTube channel. Thanks for sticking around. If you do normally see our lives, we will be back. Undetermined time, but we will be back. I believe at least Tom will be here next Sunday. Hopefully, me as well. Um,
this is how you tell me you might not show up next week.
yeah, this is the business memo right here. There you
Uh,
go. Yeah. But please, no matter you catch us on a live or you're catching this video, please make sure you slap that like button. Go ahead and ding that notification bell. Leave us a comment. Let us know how upset you are that we haven't done a live in a while, or let us know how upset you are at this video or anything else. Yeah, just lay it all down on the comment section. Or if you think we're still doing a great job, you love our channel, having a good fun as we do doing these, also leave those comments as well. And of course, on any topic that we're currently doing, a topic you would like us to cover, um, or any topics in our past, of course. My memory is kind of bad, but Tom has a typically can remember a comment that was left on a video. The ironic thing is about having a busy schedule is it's bad for a YouTube channel, but it's a testament to the healing power of Carnivore. I'm just guessing that before Carnivore, when you were really ill, you weren't going out and leaving the house too much more. Do you leave the house more post carnivore than pre, you think, Tom?
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if anything, yeah, I'd say probably the biggest issue was the arthritis. But I mean, that was hands, back, sometimes neck, definitely feet, sometimes hips, especially the back pain. You don't sleep much because you can't even roll over in bed, you know, and you go to get out of bed and you're just miserable. So you don't feel like going anywhere, you know?
No doubt. And I was very much the same way with my crippling migraines and the occasional, well, not occasional, but getting sinus infections too. I mean, yeah, staying home sick, you know, if there was YouTube channels back then, I don't know. You don't feel like making a YouTube channel about being sick though. Who wants to watch that? Right? Like, is there a migraine YouTuber out there? Maybe there is. Maybe I should have them on. I don't know. Maybe I could look it up. There's everything. So I talking to a friend who's in water treatment, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm studying for my next certification. I've been watching a bunch of water treatment podcasts and YouTube videos." And I was like, "What? There's water treatment podcasts and YouTubes?" And I was like, "Well, I suppose anything's possible. I've heard of these crazy people that do all these YouTube and podcasts about only eating meat. So I mean, I suppose." So I just
Right.
thought that was really interesting. Even though he's like, "Yeah, if you're ever interested in, I can send you links." And I was like, "Yeah, you're welcome to send me links, but I ain't gonna make any guarantees about jumping right into that."
Yeah, one of the things about water treatment, there's no way to get a lot of the pharmaceuticals out of them, so you can flock it and drop the particulate count and all that other stuff, run it through charcoal, or but they call it something coal, and a something coal. But anyways, they do all that stuff. They add trying to remember what it is they add. They add a powder. We were just talking about lye. It's not lye. It's I can't remember what they flock it with. But anyways, it makes all the particles clump together in the water so they're easy to get out. Yeah, I studied water treatment too because I was in civil engineering for
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
20, 25, 30 years, whatever it was. So, yep, had to learn a little bit about that. So, most of the people I was in classes with were getting certificates so they could work at water treatment plants. I was really just more interested in the design aspects.
Mm.
So, so you're in civil engineering, you deal with water distribution, sewer, storm drain, That's funny too, because when you're in that, you always hear people talk about walking through sewer pipes or something in a movie, and it's usually a storm drain. They don't know the difference. They don't care. So anyways,
You
like
would not want to walk down a true sewer pipe. I think that is.
no, it'd be hella slippery too. They're usually round, they don't have flat bottoms. So, and as soon as you pull a manhole on a sanitary sewer like that, giant cockroaches start coming out. So, and since I was the biggest guy there, I was the guy they usually wanted to take with to move the manhole covers because they're a little cumbersome. In case you hadn't noticed. So, and they're usually at least 2 feet across.
Right. How
Yeah.
much do they weigh? I mean, what?
I don't remember how much they weigh. Say like 100 pounds or something like that,
Oh
maybe a
wow.
little less. Some of them are bigger than that. So, but a lot of times they try and there's a little hole and they put a hook in there and try and lift it out with like a bail hook.
Right.
And that's like the dumb way to do it because you could barely drag it around, and
Uh,
many a hook is snapped off trying to move a.
shit.
You're dragging the manhole cover and it gets caught on something and then whoop, there goes your hook. So yeah, you just take a digging bar with a point on it, those big like 24-pound bars with a point, and you just
Uh,
jam that point into the hole, and then you use the bar as a lever, and
just
that's the
pop
easy
it.
way yeah. But yeah, we used to have to measure how deep the sewers were sometimes for a long distance. Like you just pop the manholes open and then you have to measure down to the bottom of the flow line. So it's pretty disgusting.
Mm.
Yeah. And usually they're not big enough to walk in. They're not big enough to crawl in usually. Sometimes they are, but when you get close to the treatment plants, but your residential areas and stuff like that, even your commercial areas, they're only like 6-inch, 12-inch diameter pipes, so you don't walk through those. But the storm drains could be massive. Some of them are big enough to drive through. So anyways, enough about underground piping.
Yeah. So we're moving from water to fire, actually, which is kind of interesting.
Fire, fire, fire.
Fire, fire, fire. Yeah, where's Beavis when we need him?
There's no
Um,
fire. There's no fire in Southern California. It's actually been raining. It's good.
hey, there you
Good
go.
news.
No fires in Australia. No, was it smoked kangaroo?
Fire sales on smoked kangaroo and
Yeah,
grilled koala. Yeah.
right. Not currently. So hopefully that keeps it up for our buddy Joe. We miss him. He's been gone now 2 weeks or 1 week. I can't remember now.
1 week.
1 week for you, 2 weeks
1 week
for
for me.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, because I was listening to a different unrelated podcast, actually not carnivore related, and I heard someone say, "Oh yeah, they used to treat burn victims with raw eggs." And I was like, "What?" Because I'd never heard that before.
Hmm.
So I did a little bit of digging, and I don't know how we should do this, Tom. If I should read the paper, or we should just talk about the paper, or you can link it. How do you think is best?
Let's just talk about eggs in general for a second, and then we'll get into that
Right.
paper you found. And then let's also talk about when you try and search for this stuff, what happens, right?
Yeah, right.
So, when it comes to eggs, some people just don't tolerate eggs, but most people do. And we're generally talking about chicken eggs. I know there's all kinds of people out there like duck eggs or turtle eggs or whatever the hell they eat, alligator eggs, snake eggs, whatever. But we're talking about chicken eggs. And eggs in general are very nutritious. They essentially contain everything to start a life form, a chicken, obviously. So they're very complete. The white is a almost all protein, and of course the yolk has got kind of all the vitamins and minerals. And this one of the things that I notice is it's pretty common to recommend that pregnant women take um folic acid, right? But folic acid is sort of a less effective form of folate, right? In the
Right.
the chicken egg, the yolk actually has real folate in it, which is the more desirable molecule, as it were. And it's also much more bioavailable, right? So we all know there's issues with swallowing tablets or capsules and trying to absorb. you know, slightly dissimilar molecules, trying to absorb them and not just have them pass through your digestive tract and be a waste. So, anyways, that's always been one of my things. Is like, hey, instead of swallowing pills, why don't you just eat some eggs? Um, when people have an issue with eggs, it's generally the egg whites, and people who have problem with egg whites are kind of all over the place because sometimes if they're cooked real well, they can they can eat them with no problem, and sometimes some people can only eat them raw. As soon as they cook them, they don't agree with them. So yeah, and they kind of lump eggs in the dairy category, which in my mind, dairy basically means like it's milk or cream based, right?
Mhm.
And that's a complicated subject on itself, but I hate to see people just blanketly uh, dismiss all dairy because there's different forms of dairy that some people thrive on. Like some people can do raw milk, no problem, but pasteurized, homogenized milk or industrial milk, industrial farm milk is a no go. So some people can eat cheese, some people can't. Some people are addicted to cheese. Some people are, seem to. How many people have we seen that like guzzle milk and then they're in bad shape, right? Like, what's his name? The director, Kevin Smith,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, he ballooned up and had a widowmaker heart attack, and he was chugging like 2 gallons of milk a day or something insane.
That's a bit, and it's probably pasteurized milk too. I mean, I'm
Sure.
not sure if you should drink. I know, um, what's his name? He lives in Brazil with his wife on a little farm.
Oh, yeah, the not Brazil. They live in like Ecuador or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ecuador. Yeah,
guy,
I can't remember. Kristen,
Christian,
Kristen,
Tristan
Tristan.
Haggard.
Haggard, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
that's him. I
yeah.
know he was talking about drinking like a gallon, I think, a day of milk, like 1 gallon of raw milk from his cows, just to supplement. I think he's a little
You all right
like
there?
some spit
You're
went
running
down.
running oxygen over there on your drink.
Apparently, my asthma decided to kick in there at that second. Um, uh, can you guys tell we haven't done this in a minute? So there you go. The
What, breathe?
uh,
Uh,
so he drinks like a gallon a day. I think he's a bit of a bigger dude, and so to supplement his nutrition or whatever. So, um, not everybody has a disastrous consequence. Although 2 gallons is, I think, a bit much. I don't think he would even drink 2 gallons a day.
yeah, and if you're drinking like skim milk, which has got higher sugar content, the fat's reduced, so the sugar increases. You know, that that doesn't seem to go to well. I mean, milk in general is designed to be obesogenic, right? It's designed to
Right.
put mass on, including fat. So, you've got fat in whole milk, you got fat and sugar, right? And so, the potential for activating the Randall cycle is high in that one. I mean, it's meant for babies, baby cows, baby people, baby goats, whatever it is. But, and we can't ignore, populations like the Amish and the Maasai, those guys. I think the Maasai was the pastoralist was something like 6 to 9 liters a day. So it's like roughly a gallon and a half to almost 2 gallons. Wait, that's more than 2 gallons. So it's like almost 2.25 gallons of milk a day on top of, blood, drinking cow's blood. And those guys don't seem to have a problem with it. Of course, it's raw. It's raw milk, or it might be cooked with blood or something like that, but it's not homogenized. And the fat to protein to carbohydrate ratio is whatever it is coming out of the animal. So
And those guys are hustling, right? They're out there. They don't have day jobs or they're sitting in an office for 8 hours a day. So, they're a bit
no,
more on the move.
yeah, they're just taking care of the cows, fighting off lions, stuff like that. So,
Right.
and I mean, the Amish are famous for drinking raw milk, and they don't seem to have issues with lactose intolerance and stuff like that generally. They tend to be strong, healthy, scrappy individuals. So yeah, dairy has its place, and the humble chicken egg. Um, you know, some cases I suspect that people don't tolerate the eggs just because of what the chickens are fed. They're on a plant-based grain diet. Some people seem to have that same issue with pork because it can be fed a lot of soy, and same might be true of chickens, and maybe maybe people are reacting to what the chicken ate, more than they are the sort of macronutrients of the egg itself. So,
Yeah, now that I'm participating in having chickens, those little bastards eat like constantly. Like all they do is eat and poop, basically. It's like all they do, pretty much. And it's getting fall, close to winter, and they're running out of bugs. But they
yep.
they want the bugs. Like you put the feed out there and they pick at it, but like the rest of the day, they're looking for bugs. They're little hunters, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, God forbid a mouse or a rat or something gets in there because they'll just tear it to pieces. You should do a video where you throw a piece of meat in there.
Oh, that'd be cool. What kind of meat? What would I throw in there? I could get a rat.
Whatever, just throw a chicken in there, throw a steak in there. They'll eat it. Throw a
Okay.
possum, a dead possum in there. They'll probably tear it up.
All right. Coming
Yeah,
soon then, because I'd be interested to see that, what they do.
yeah. Well, one of those feeder rats gets a little too big.
Right. Maybe feed my aunt's rat to the chickens, put them out there.
I wouldn't commit to that online. So
He got out on accident, I
I
swear.
swear he ran right into the chicken coop.
Yeah.
I think he I think he wanted to end it. So
uh,
so yeah, so eggs. So we were hearing this rumor, as it were, that they were feeding raw eggs to burn victims to help them heal. And of course, the issue we ran into is when you try and research that, you keep coming up with these stories about putting egg whites on the burns, right? As opposed
right.
to eating the eggs. And of course, that's been debunked because it's like, oh no, it increases the infection rate and stuff like that. But so, for whatever reason, when you try and research the eating of eggs to help heal burn victims, you get all these other articles, which is annoying because you just got to sift through stuff you weren't looking for.
Yeah, it's quite odd. Uh, haven't really had that issue with another thing I've ever looked up, but I guess it's just the times. Who knows? Not saying that there's anything nefarious about that, but it was strange. And I want to make just a quick personal comment about eggs. When I started carnivore, it felt like I couldn't it felt like I couldn't ingest eggs. It would cause me issues, like digestive issues and headaches and stuff. But now, and it felt like, and then like within the first 6 months, it felt like I could have them like once or twice a week. Now I can have them. It seems like I could have them just about every day and be okay. um Eggs, so I mean, yeah, I think your gut can heal. I'm not quite sure if it's a permanent thing, even if you react to eggs, and I'm talking about the whole egg. I'm too lazy to separate the yolk from the white. Like, it's very frustrating to do without getting some of the white in there anyway. um
So you were trying to not eat whites because they weren't agreeing with you at one point.
Yeah, because everyone says, oh, it's typically just the whites. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt, though, to get only a yolk and not get any white or get very little white, to do that successfully. At least for me.
Well, I noticed that like if I just eat scrambled eggs, no problem. If I try and eat like a fried egg,
Mm.
sunny side up or whatever, one or two's okay, but any more than that, it's like something not quite right. But I can eat, a half dozen scrambled eggs, no problem. Of course, I like to put a little cream in them,
Mhm.
and then whatever. Like I've been eating them with like chopped ham or something in them. That's delicious. if I had more time to cook, I'd eat that more. But I think I this past weekend I had it like 3 days in a row or something like that. So now I'm out of eggs.
Easy to do.
Now I got to
I
go to the store.
My aunt actually found a farmer around here that sells turkey eggs. So I've been
Mm,
having some turkey eggs, and they're about twice the size of a chicken egg. And those are
mm.
really good. They taste the same as a chicken egg, but they're bigger and they're more meaty. And then they also sell duck eggs. So I've eaten duck eggs before. They're fattier, you know. I'd say that the turkey egg tastes more like meaty, and the duck egg is more like fatty. It's kind of interesting, just like cooking duck versus cooking chicken, turkey, what have you. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Every time I eat a duck, I wonder why we mess with chickens. You know, and,
Because it's so much
and
grease
turkey.
cooking a duck.
Yeah, but I mean, you can always pour off extra fat you don't want, but damn, some crispy duck. What is better than that?
Crispy duck is pretty damn good.
Makes me sad for chickens and turkeys when I eat duck or goose. I don't know. I mean, goose is pretty hard. If you're not shooting it out of the sky, they're pretty hard to come by around here.
Yeah.
And they do fly over, but the chances of dropping one and having it land in your yard, not the neighbor's yard, before the cops get here, kind of slim. So I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm thinking the new technology is a drone with a net on it.
To grab yourself a goose.
Grab a goose.
Grab a
Yeah,
goose. Hey, you
grab a
can call
goose.
it that. Grab a goose.
Grab a goose.
Grab a goose.
Yeah. Of course, it's going to make a lot of noise. It's probably easier to get away with a shotgun, one shotgun blast than it is to try and net a live goose because they make a lot of noise.
Well,
Just
the vegans are probably going to hate this, but what I'm imagining is that the drone has the net, grabs the goose, and immediately kills power and just drops the goose and killing the goose. And so it's just
mm,
done.
mm, something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the waterfowl is just superior meat in my estimation.
Oh yeah,
I have wondered what those cranes taste like. We got those egrets.
right.
Yeah, I have wondered. They eat fish and stuff, probably pretty good.
Well, I think they're really lean though. It's really
I don't
lean.
know. Sandhill cranes are supposedly delicious.
Hmm.
We don't have those here. And they you can hunt them, some places there's plenty of them so you can hunt them. So but anyways, back to the eggs. So you want to share the article? You want me to share the article with what's happening here?
I can share it. I have it.
Share away
Oh,
my
you disabled it. Is it enabled now?
let me check. Menus blocked. Come here. Securita.
Security.
This should be enabled.
Okay. And we'll drop the link, of course. So this is
Oh, you downloaded the
yeah, the PDF.
PDF. Nice.
Yeah, I was able to find the PDF. So it's only 4 pages long.
We found it
Now,
on PubMed for anybody's wondering. PubMed.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, of course. But if you just go to PubMed and look for 35 eggs per day in the treatment of severe burns, it should come up no problem. And we'll try and get the link out. I'll drop the
yeah,
link in the Meat Mosaic Facebook group and Autistic Carnivores and stuff like that. So, and
and,
because go ahead.
and those autistic carnivores out there, help us track down some more of this research. I could only really find this paper, but if there's any more of stuff like this out there, I'd love to dig into it. So just a note here. This is from the British Journal of Plastic Surgery in 1975. So we're talking what, 50 years ago? Just shy of 50 years ago. When were you born, Tom?
70,
70? Okay, so
late
it's like
70.
40, 45 years ago or so. So still pretty old. Typically, when you're doing a research paper, you're not allowed to use references this old, but I don't think has been any new research on this uh, for quite some time. I won't read the article directly. I just want to prove that it exists. And there's just a few parts. Um, Here they talk about that they've done this for uh, 2 decades. Yeah, 2 decades. We have been feeding our severely burned patients with between 30 and 40 eggs per day. They appear to be readily, I'm going to mess up this word, assimilable, easily ingested, and without untoward effects. It's 1975 and it's British, so they speak a little different than us here in the real English America.
Yeah.
Um, oh,
Hey,
go
let
ahead,
me let
Tom.
me just throw something in there real quick. So, if you go to the store, how much do you pay for an egg roughly, you think?
An egg?
Well, or a dozen, doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't. Well, I just bought pasture raised organic for like 570 a carton. So 570 for 12.
Okay, so if you're eating 570 and you're eating, let's do some quick math on that. Let's say this is somewhere in the region of 3 dozen eggs, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 16, 17 bucks a day.
Yeah.
How much do you think any other pharmaceutical costs per day for a burn victim?
Oh, I have no idea, Tom. That's a good question.
Yeah, but I mean, even just to hang a bag of saline in a hospital, what's that gotta cost? you know?
I think they charge $500 just to hang saline.
Yeah, right. So imagine a treatment as inexpensive as, what did we say? You said five something a carton. So call it $6 a carton times three, $18 a day. Right.
Right.
Very cheap and very accessible, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, if you're severely burned or if you're a burn victim, I suppose you'd have to have a friend I mean,
Well, somebody's probably taking care
this is
of
not medical advice. Please, if you have a severe burn, go to the hospital.
you. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're not talking about how to treat burns. We're just looking at the work. But I'm just making the point that everything in the hospital, or just about everything costs a lot of money. Drugs, treatments, therapies are very expensive, and this is a relatively inexpensive. It's not some rare drug that you got a special order from some company either.
Definitely. So these particular ones. So what's interesting here is that the serum protein and lipoprotein levels have been measured in 8 burn patients ingesting 35 eggs per day. The patients were all in their 20s, so pretty young. So maybe if you're older, you'd have to make some adjustments, and had second and third degree burns covering 30 to 60% of the body surface. Tom, do you know the difference between the second and third degree burns? I'm not well versed on that, but maybe
It's
you are.
basically how many, how deep the burn goes into the skin. If you look at the strata, the skin is divided into
Hmm.
regions or layers. And so it has to do with how deep it penetrates, right? Through the
Now,
skin and into subtissues potentially, right?
right now, the third degree is like the most severe. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe
Yeah.
the higher the number, the deeper the burn.
Right. Okay. As soon as they're stabilized on the 6th day, they begin the egg diet or so. So it actually wasn't all only raw. It was in whichever way the nursing staff could get it down to them. So popular, of course, fried, raw in soups, or wine, which I thought was really interesting. I've never heard of anyone having raw eggs and wine. Um, Omelets, egg enriched ice cream, which I thought was really cool because that's essentially carnivore ice cream, basically. So I thought that was a really cool nod.
Yeah, did we even get a chance to mention the bacon ice cream we made?
No, we didn't, unfortunately.
It was basically cream and eggs and bacon. I chopped up some bacon and cooked it a little more. Just threw it in there.
It was good. Very good.
Very good.
Very good. So maybe see, maybe we can create a burn victim, go to hospitals and give them bacon egg ice cream and see what happens if it helps with their healing. Idea. Let's see. So that was during the day. During the night, 10 raw eggs mixed with a half liter of milk, plus ample sugar, which of course we kind of disagree here, were fed through a nasogastric tube. Just that way they could keep the egg regimen through the night. I'm not quite sure the point of the sugar. I'm guessing just to keep calories up, maybe. That kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just sort of the basic way to get calories into somebody who's incapacitated, right? So, a lot of times when they give people IV drip, it's got glucose in it, right? So,
And they did some serum protein tests here. Uh, albumin, globulin, and total serum protein levels were determined in the auto analyzer. The average initial level of total serum proteins was 4 to 1 grams 100 milliliter. This had risen to 6.25 grams per 100 milliliter by the 16th day and thereafter remained constant. The albumin and globulin figures showed the same trend, initially slightly below normal. They subsequently rose into the normal range and thereafter remained constant. The serum lipoproteins, the membrane filtration and nephelometric method of Stone and Thorpe was used. Don't ask me what that's about. I don't know. The results were reported in terms of the concentration of large, medium, and small particle size. Small lipoprotein particle comprise mainly cholesterol with little triglyceride lipoprotein content. Medium-sized particles are those containing triglycerides in the main with smaller proportions of cholesterol protein. Large particles are a measure of chylomicron content. Serum cholesterol levels were all determined by the Huang et al. Technique, I guess. All small, medium, large size protein levels were within normal limits. Initially, the serum cholesterol levels were subnormal, but subsequently rose and remained within normal limits throughout. So a lot of people, you can't eat eggs, too much cholesterol. We all remember those commercials and warnings back in, was that like the early 90s, or did it and then in the mid 90s it like switched to pro egg commercials. It was really funny to watch on the news, and it's always flopping back and forth, right? And we know why, because there isn't any hard science, right?
right.
um so the serum proteins, I could take a guess as why that would be important to burn victims, but Tom, do you have maybe something more scientific to share about that, why that might be important?
Well, from a general perspective, particularly when you're talking to people that are in the fitness realm, a lot of people will take things like whey isolate proteins or collagen peptides, whatever, and they are proteins, but they're typically, as the name implies, they're isolated, right? They're a particular, primarily a particular protein molecule with a limited set and a specific ratio of amino acids. But when you eat something like a whole egg, it's considered generally to be a complete protein because it's not a single isolated protein. There's, more than one protein in there. There's amino acids and various ratios in each protein and so on and so forth. So an egg is considered a whole food. So if you're eating whole eggs, you're essentially getting a what people perceive as a better package, right? As opposed to an isolate, like a collagen or whey isolate or something like that. So, and like we mentioned earlier, the egg yolk itself contains all kinds of nutrients like folic acid and B vitamins and stuff like that. And also fats, right? So omega 3s and stuff like that are considered essential and contributed to the concept that it's more of an ideal complete food. Does that kind of help, or is that
Yeah, I mean, I get it that if you were to, with the egg has all the protein, because the goal is to rebuild that skin, right? That was burned. That's the whole purpose of all this, right? And
yeah.
in this paper, I was hoping to look for something more definitive, making that direct link. I didn't find it. Maybe there's a different paper, maybe there's more research. They talk more about calories, which I understand is important. It was 1975, so I'm not quite sure how far burn science had come by then, of course. And then again, it's a small population because in the modern world, not that many people are getting second and third degree burns. It doesn't happen that often, thankfully. But here it says the calorie content of one egg averages 70 calories. So at 35 eggs, the intake would supply 2,450 calories. The additional ordinary ward diet allows the desired calorie intake of 6 to 7,000 calories. So something about burn victims to heal requires 6 to 7,000 calories. Not quite sure why, but that's a claim that's made earlier in the paper.
I'll
Um,
speculate.
okay, go ahead, Tom.
Let me speculate. First of all, let's just talk about proteins in general. So everybody's kind of familiar with the concept that human beings have all these genes that sort of compile your genetic makeup, right? And the
Mhm.
thing that genes do is turn on and off or mediate protein production. So you're taking in food, and this goes to the root of our argument as carnivores. The human body is essentially made out of proteins, and your genes basically express what proteins are synthesized in the human body, and those proteins are made from our food, right? So to us, animal protein is vastly superior to plant protein for a number of reasons. But if anything, when you eat something like beef, the the proteins in that cow are very similar to the human being. So
Hmm.
you're taking you're taking in the protein of the cow to rebuild your body. Your body takes the cow proteins, breaks them down into amino acids or amino acid groups or something like that, and then recombines them through processes to make the specific proteins that your body is made out of. So your bones have a protein skeleton, sometimes referred to as extracellular matrix, right? But still protein. Your bones are not made of chalk. They're not made of just calcium. Things like calcium are stored in the matrix of the bone, you know. And the same thing, your skin, your hair, they're all made from protein, right? So when you look at shampoo for split ends, they use proteins to bind the protein in the hair at the end back together so you don't get your split ends. I figured you'd enjoy that because you're very much into your hair. So
Right, there you go.
so
And the
it,
old punks back in the day used to use raw egg to get the Liberty spikes, the huge
yeah,
spikes.
well, egg whites was like
Yeah,
the glue before they had Schwarzkopf hair glue, you used egg whites. Yeah, that was the thing.
right.
So yeah, obviously your skin is made from protein. You have massive skin injuries from burns. That skin needs to be replaced by new skin cells, and that's going to be made primarily out of things like protein and cholesterol, right?
Right.
So you're gonna same thing, when I talk all the time about I get into it a little bit with people because everybody's just like, oh, women need more of this and men need more of that. And then it's like, well, that might be the case to some extent, but you take a guy like me, he's 51, who lives, and then I won't name anybody in particular, but you take a younger female who's I don't know, 25 or 30 at the most. And she lifts, and her protein demands are similar to mine. Obviously, I'm a bigger person, so I need more. But the type of ratios that she needs as a female, because she's a weightlifter, is much closer to the sort of ratios that I eat than it is, the typical female who doesn't lift. And particularly lifting aggressively, lifting heavy, lifting frequently, like daily. So we can see there that protein demand is somewhat driven by activity, right? And if your primary activity is growing new skin, you're going to need a lot of protein. And it could be we're looking at caloric values in this paper, right? 7,000 calories. So, I don't know what the average weight of the person was in 1975, but it was probably like 130 pounds or something, right?
Right.
120 pounds, so that's quite a few calories. But as we know, protein in general is the last of the macronutrients to be converted into energy, which, calories is really a heat unit that we sort of approximate the energy demand for human beings. And so there's this very deceptive sort of layering of how much our food contributes to our energy, because if you're eating fat, the fat pretty much goes straight to being used as energy. The conversion from a food you put in your mouth into energy is close to 1 to 1, right? So you're eating one 1 gram of fat, you're getting 9 calories of energy out of it, pretty much.
Right.
But when you get to protein, it's very different, because first your body's going to convert fat, and if you eat them, carbohydrates into energy. If you drink a bunch of booze, it's going to convert hopefully the ethanol into energy and not into visceral fat or fat around your organs or in your organs. So I throw that in because everybody always picks an argument with me when I just talk about fat, protein, and carbohydrates. They're like, what about booze? What about ethanol? So anyways, hopefully ethanol is not a primary food group for you, but if it is,
Unless you're on vacation.
well, let's hope it still makes up a tiny, tiny portion of your food. So anyways, yeah, so when you get to protein, you're going to lose like 30% of that protein in the transformation from protein food into energy, right? So it's not only the last priority for making energy out of the macronutrients, but there's also significant loss in converting it into energy, or as it goes through the process and becomes ATP in the cells.
Well, because my understanding is it has to basically convert it to sugar first, or glucose, right?
Well, it can be, but that's not the only way, because we get fueled from fatty acid chains are converted into fuel, and things like acetate and stuff like that are fuels as well. So it's not just glucose or whatever, that glucose or damn it, what am I trying to think of? What's the other sugar that we see in muscle contractions?
Glycogen.
Glycogen. Yeah, it's not all glucose and glycogen, right? And that's,
Mhm.
I mean, everybody knows now what ketones are, ketone bodies, right?
Right.
um they're a fatty acid chain, right? And that's essentially one of the fuels that the body, the cells in the body use. Not every cell can use fatty acid chains. Some do only
Right.
use uh
Glucose or
yeah, glucose
glycogen.
and
Yeah.
glycogen, right? And so there's some speciality there. And yes, protein can be converted, so can the glycerol backbone and stuff like that can be converted into glucose. But it's a very complicated, we're a very complicated biochemical machine, so there is a lot of processes in there. But the point is that they're giving these people relatively high um caloric intakes of protein, and most of it is going to go into building new skin, new tissues, right?
Yeah, that would be hard to prove, but uh yeah. Theoretically, yeah, it's damaged, right? And so typically the body is going to take the most recent damage and try to heal that first, and then work on
So
delayed damage later.
let's say for the sake of argument that you're an average sized person and you're doing what you're like 1,500, 2,000 calories a day or something like that.
Yeah, like 17 on average, I'd
So
say 17,000, not 17.
yeah, so 1,700.
1700,
Yeah,
sorry.
1,700
Yeah.
calories, and they're talking about 6 to 7,000 calories of high protein.
Well, just throughout the day, 6 to 7, and a third of that is just the egg and protein, or what's in the egg, the calories of the egg.
right. And of course, as you mentioned, they were including
Iron and some
sugar.
other supplements and sugar at night
Yeah,
for some reason,
but
and milk.
the title of the article is 35 eggs per day in the treatment of severe burns, right? So give you some idea. And of course, we could say too. I mean, the classic bodybuilder diet.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, probably I'd say from the 80s back was primarily steak and eggs, right?
Right.
So people got huge. Now, of course, bodybuilders, it's a lot of rice and vegetables and lean chicken or whatever. So, but so no surprise that you're trying to rebuild a bunch of tissue. Eggs seem to be one of those things that are recurrently used, right? Whether it's for bodybuilding or healing burns or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to read on here. So each egg contains 6 grams of protein, and 35 eggs thus provided 210 grams of protein a day. Now, my assumption is nobody in the study weighed 210 pounds. And they say 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, right? Now, otherwise, in the keto community, you're going to turn all that protein into sugar, which is something we just talked about, right? And
Yeah.
so in this paper, there was no concern um, about feeding these people, which could possibly be as much as maybe time and a half or times and a half their regular protein intake. Like you said, they're weighing about 130. If you're having 210 grams, um, you're almost doing a doubling your protein for your body. Now, I understand you're trying to heal, but that doesn't seem to be concerning at all to these researchers. Um,
Yeah, dying
according,
dying of infection is probably their biggest concern, right? And as
right,
as we see, the higher the serum cholesterol, the less likely you are to die of an infection. So
right. So according to ARTS 1968, the daily requirement of a burn patient to maintain positive nitrogen balance is about 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, 30 calories for each gram of protein. Ingestion of a much smaller bulk is a further advantage. Thus, 100 grams of meat contains only 18 grams of protein. The ingestion of 3 eggs is obviously far easier than that of 100 grams of meat. Um,
yeah, I can only imagine if you're a burn victim, chewing a bunch of steak is going to be probably an issue, right?
Right, definitely. So it says all of our patients over the years have tolerated this regimen surprisingly well, and almost no incidents could diarrhea, vomiting, and allergic reactions, if they appeared, be attributed to the high egg intake. This has been borne out in the 8 burn patients under investigation, none of whom developed any untoward reactions while on the diet. So I just thought that sentence kind of blew my mind. I just thought that was wow.
Yeah, you got people in a severe state of trauma and they're not having a reaction to eating a bunch of eggs,
Right. Cooked a variety of different ways.
including
Just
even
trying
wine,
to
wine,
wine.
wine eggs. That
Right.
I'm not. I like wine. It would never occur to me to cook eggs with wine or drink them together or something.
Right.
So
Um, a further interesting feature was that no distaste for eggs was acquired. Just sit there and just have a bunch of eggs. Like, yeah, sign me up, no doubt. I want some eggs right now, truthfully. This could partially be explained by the fact that practically all the patients were unaware of the number of eggs they were ingesting. Now, I do want to take a quick pause here because could you imagine if you had to eat like 35 stalks of kale? Like you would notice that, right? You would be like, you'd be like, oh Jesus,
you
even if
you just have to stay on the toilet all day or wear a diaper because that would just shred your colon.
uh, and so it's very interesting. And, eggs they were ingesting, absorption must also have been adequate since none of these patients developed steatorrhea or diarrhea, meaning that, they weren't just all of it out. It was being used by the system, which is what you want. This is in contrast to the use of synthetic high calorie oral preparations, which, besides being to a certain extent impalatable, often give rise to worrying diarrhea.
Yeah, so I mean, diarrhea can be triggered by all kinds of things, and steatorrhea is the presence of too much fat causing like a loose stool. So yeah, again, that points to high bioavailability, right? So
Right.
you know, it's probably pretty safe to assume that the vast majority of the eggs are absorbed in the small intestine right below the stomach, right? They're probably
Mm.
little or nothing is going on to the lower bowels, So, and that, of course, we know, but
Making things much easier on the nursing staff.
right, yeah, and we know a bit about this because there have been studies where they feed meat, and I haven't read one about eggs, but of course, we're talking about a similar food. The amino acids are absorbed in the small intestine. So when people have an ileostomy, they have an opening in their side at the bottom of the small intestine, and then the waste material goes into a bag, attached to their body. And so these studies show that when people are fed meat, there's very little waste. So the meat is being absorbed in the small intestine and going right into the bloodstream through the endothelium. So,
This last part here, I just wanted to touch on because it's really cool. The high egg diet certainly represents a significant cholesterol load. An egg contains between 250 and 550 milligrams of cholesterol, and thus our patients imbibed over 7,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day. Contrary to expectations, serum cholesterol and lipoprotein levels remained normal throughout the period of the study. uh, for some reason, talk about dogs. Dogs fed a diet rich in saturated fatty acids with added cholesterol developed significant increases in all fractions of serum lipid concentration within the first week of the diet. Similar findings have been obtained in rabbits and monkeys. No similar situation whereby such a high cholesterol load sustained for a period of weeks in humans has been encountered in the literature. The closest human model to our situation would be that of the Eskimos, whose daily cholesterol intake ranges from 420 to 1,650 milligrams a day. Studies on the Maasai Africans, who eat primarily a diet consisting of milk, blood, and meat, and who were supplemented with 2,000 milligrams of crystalline cholesterol, have been performed. In both these groups, serum cholesterol levels remained within normal limits. I mean, boom, like that's
boom. Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. So, aside from the fact of finding out that a high egg diet could help somebody with severe burns, the research that they included here based on similar situations, not dealing with burns so much, but intake both in animals and humans, points us back to something. It's like we're in the middle of learning something that everybody already knew but turned a blind eye to, right?
Right, definitely. I mean, again, this is from 1975 and it kind of goes on a little bit more. But I think those are the main points that we wanted to cover today with this article. Of course, I'll send Tom the link to drop it in and everything. And I'll probably be spreading this around several different Facebook groups and things like that, just because I mean it's proof positive. And now I get confirmation bias or whatever, but it's proof positive to what we talk about all day, every day. And so, and again, 1975, you can think of it what you think, but I think this is before, let's say, a more plant-based agenda took hold of the scientific community. they were really trying to find the best way to help these people, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
My understanding now, burn victims are treated with steroids, which I'm sure work amazing. But if you don't have access, or maybe the third world, right? I mean, you're more likely probably to develop a bird in a third world or an impoverished country than you are in the modern, Western world.
Well, I think Sean's talked about this. He did some time in a burn hospital, right?
Right,
Wasn't far from the border. And there was a lot of kids getting burned because whatever, their mattress caught on fire or whatever.
right,
And of course just people being awful to one another. So
right.
mm,
Be excellent to one another.
yeah, stop setting people on fire.
So, Tom, what did you think of the article? Last thoughts?
Uh, you know, I I'm glad you uncovered this because again, it's all the research that goes into this. Should we drop the screen share?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I could do it.
so all that research at the end there that they cited on top of just a supporting study of treating burn victims. I think it's another one of those massive home runs that I hope everybody talks about.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of you had never heard of it, right? You've
Nope.
been in this community a lot longer than me. You've read several books, never came up.
Well, we hear a lot of stuff, and I'm not saying we can possibly remember it all.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I don't recall hearing about it, and it's one more tool that we put in the toolbox, right? When we're unraveling this big thing that we do that well, I mean, almost everybody's a neophyte to it. I mean, the people that have been doing it for 20 years I'm sure are still learning, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, what is your opinion on doing a 35 eggs a day challenge? Maybe we could chuck them down for a week or so. I know you react to them. You kind of have a
Well, it
bet.
depends, like I was saying, it depends on the form. Like I can eat a couple of hard-boiled eggs a day or whatever, and then I don't feel like eating them anymore. But
I'm just not a fan of hard-boiled eggs, period. Honestly, like they're so tasteless to me. Now, deviled eggs, deviled eggs are amazing.
well, I tried
But
I got a bunch of hard-boiled eggs that I've got pickling in like a seasoned vinegar or brine or whatever.
yeah.
And the flavor is taking forever to penetrate the egg. I'm not quite sure how they get that done at the
Mm.
factory but yeah, so I'm not like real crazy about hard-boiled eggs. Like I said, I like the scrambled eggs. I'm not sure how long it take me to scramble 35 eggs. I mean, we might as well call it 36, right? Because we buy everything in a dozen.
Right.
So, but I'm willing to give it a try. And then I never really embraced drinking the raw eggs. I know you've done that quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So
I enjoy it. I really like doing it. I
yeah,
think the most I did was, did I do 12 or 6 on camera that one time? We did some raw video or whatever. I think I did
it was a
6.
glass.
It was a
So
glass.
I
However
don't
many.
think a dozen would fit in there.
I
It's
don't
probably
think
like
so.
6, 7, 8 you were drinking, something like that. So
Right.
I'm willing to give all that a try. See how many I can scramble. See how many I can drink just raw. So I think the thing about the raw egg thing is it's probably the next step because like I like to eat the raw meat. I like particularly the raw sirloin now, and I enjoy it. And I really, when I started doing it, I started really tasting the meat. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's not seared, it's not seasoned. I don't even put salt on it. And you weren't. I don't. Were you here that night? Aaron came over.
Yeah, I was. And we were
Yeah,
doing
so
the
I cut it out, and everybody's like, "You gotta put salt on it. You gotta have salt." I'm like, well, "You can have salt if you want, but yeah, I don't even eat it with salt, right?"
right. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it was great. Just chowing. And it wasn't even like ribeye, raw ribeye or New York. It wasn't grass fed, grass finished or anything.
no, it's just regular top sirloin.
Yeah.
And that's a nod to all the people with the budgetary constraints here because the top sirloin typically is a lesser expensive cut of meat. There are
Mm.
there are even, but and for those people who want to eat lean, like I've been eating, that's a great cut. You saw those pieces. There was a little or no fat on those
Yeah.
steaks. Yeah. So maybe when I start drinking I'm wondering if maybe when I start drinking the raw eggs, I'll start tasting the egg more. And because
Hmm.
you know how it tends to be, particularly egg whites are very flavorless.
Right.
But maybe the whole egg and maybe get used to consuming it all by its lonesome, maybe then it'll be more palatable, right? Because it's so plain. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm willing to give it a try. I have no idea what kind of effort it's going to take to get 35, 36 eggs down, but
Well, and you might need more. You're a bigger guy.
yeah.
You might want to have to do like 50 or 50 eggs or something a day. You
But
might
it
just
might,
be hungry if you only, I mean, they said it was only 2,450 calories, and you on a regular day, you're closer to 4,000 calories. And on a hard
yeah,
day, 6 to 10,000.
I
So,
can, I can burn 4,500 calories taking a nap. So I didn't look to see, but just like when Joe and I were walking down at the beach, it was
mhm,
probably 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 calories.
mhm.
So yeah, so I'm willing to give it a try. It'd be an interesting experiment. You know me, I love an experiment.
Yeah.
We
If
should
nothing
just
else, maybe you would just lean out more.
we should well, it's probably a little more fat than I'm used to getting just because of
Mm,
the yolks, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. So I just drink, we can try like, just six at a time and see how it goes through the
right.
day.
Yeah.
It'd be nice freaking out my coworkers again. Just, hey, why is there 6 dozen eggs in the refrigerator? Just start chugging.
Uh,
I remember watching some of the bodybuilder videos, ages ago, and guys were going and buying eggs in 5 gallon buckets.
oh wow.
Yeah, I forget where it was, but um, it was. I think it was about guys that were working out down at Muscle Beach, which of course has
Mm,
changed a lot. It used to be
right.
Gold's Gym and all these guys out there on the boardwalk, as you call it in Venice, and now it's like this weird stainless steel arena thing. I posted some pictures of it, and
Right.
I didn't see any association with Gold's Gym or anything like that. But it was back in the heyday of all that. I remember guys, there was some place they went to buy eggs in bulk, and they would literally take 5 gallon buckets and fill it with dozens of eggs, and then
Wow.
take it home and eat it.
Probably costs less than the carton today, though. Back
Could
then,
be, could
probably
be,
that was
but
$5 for 5 gallons of eggs.
again, for people that are on a tight budget, eggs are affordable. You know,
Mhm.
even if you get the swanky ones, they're still, you know, it's still like, you can probably get a dozen eggs for what you spend at Starbucks, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and yeah, so let's try it. Let's commit to a new experiment in terror.
Yeah.
All we got to do is make time to go to the store and get a bunch of eggs.
And fill the fridge. Make sure there's room in the fridge for. I've been trying to do the math in my head and everything, but yeah, I'm totally down to do that
Well,
as an
these
upcoming.
guys in the video, I remember like one guy, he lived in this tiny kind of not so fancy apartment, and he just ate them out of the 5 gallon bucket. Like they just sat on the floor, right?
That's awesome.
I mean, eggs last a fair amount of time
Oh
and
yeah, you
at
don't even
room
have to
temperature.
refrigerate them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little safer because you don't know
Right.
where they've been and how long they've been out of the chicken, but yeah, they're pretty robust. And of
Yeah, the
course,
rest of my eggs better start laying, damn it. I mean, the
the
rest of my
rest of your
chickens.
chickens better start
Yeah.
laying eggs. Yeah, I don't think you can count on them keeping up with that kind of consumption.
I just need to get more chickens.
More chickens,
More
more weak
chickens.
birds.
More weak birds. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate everyone stopping by, clicking on our face, the Meat Mosaic logo, whatever got you here. Tell us your egg stories. Let us know what you think about eggs. Is this something you've heard about before? Are you a scientist and you can give us more of the sciencey science about it? Either way, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment, hit that like button, smack that notification bell, share it with your friends and your enemies. And of course, if you're at work, leave us playing, leave our whole playlist playing. while you're at work. Let the dog watch. You know, dogs like ambient noise. So just put us on for your dog or cat's parrot, whatever. Be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe other people out there with skin conditions or whatever that they're recovering from, maybe they want to try eating a high egg diet. So let's, we should just get some t-shirts that say guinea pig doing experiment. So, but anyways, yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and everybody out there, eat some eggs, feel better, and
And whatever
whatever you
you
do,
do,
don't fall
fall
down the
down that
carb
carb
hole.
hole, 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 hole.